Natural disasters including floods, earthquakes, droughts are extraordinary natural phenomena that bring unforeseen calamities to humanity. Recently, China has been battling ravaging floods for weeks with record-breaking rainfall, triggered by Typhoon Doksuri wreaking havoc in multiple regions of the country. Authorities are grappling with the aftermath of one of the most powerful storms. With a wide-ranging impact and high destructive power, it affected 2.91 million people to varying degrees in Fujian, Zhejiang, Anhui, Jiangxi, and Guangdong. Emergency evacuation and relocation measures were implemented for 768,000 individuals, with over 15,000 houses damaged. It is estimated that Doksuri has caused direct economic losses amounting to 14.74 billion yuan. However, is this number reported as actual statistics state media has announced? Or is the real number hidden behind the manipulation of CCP? The video has an objective and in-depth approach on the analysis of the suffering and frustration of the Chinese people amidst the typhoon and the controversial decisions of Xi Jinping regarding flood control measures from the perspective of expert analysis. Simultaneously, we will address suspicions about easily damaged infrastructure despite recent construction. Ultimately, the question arises, is China possibly facing invisible forces who are punishing China through catastrophic natural disasters? Follow us to uncover useful information about the current situation of China. Apollo Network reporter Li Yuhain reported on August 4th that it has been reported online that the local Blue Sky rescue team in Zhuoshu, Hebei, is selling relief supplies. A conflict occurred between the out-of-town rescue team and the Blue Sky rescue team at the entrance of the Tianwai Tian Hotel on Zhaofanjia Road in Zhuoshu. According to the person who filmed the video, other rescue teams at the scene did not have motor oil available, and the Blue Sky rescue team took away and sold all the motor oil. Not only that, they had previously sold lifeboats and motors. When a local licensed small truck carrying rescue supplies refused to distribute them to other rescue teams, someone used a loudspeaker to directly accuse the Blue Sky rescue team of selling relief supplies. This information has been widely circulated on local platforms, WeChat, and social media. Netizen Sweshul Wengsing commented, "The entire organizational system has collapsed. The local rescue team disregards the lives of local people. If they had started rescuing a day earlier, how many lives could have been saved? Making money tainted with blood." The impact on mainland China was severe. Mainland media reported that in some parts of the country, the amount of rainfall that would normally span about 2 years came down over the space of 2 days. It hit hard in southeastern China, and the tail end whipped into northern China, including Beijing. In this video, we'll be overwhelmed and shocked by the destructive power of Typhoon Doksuri. Typhoon Doksuri touched down at 9:55 a.m. on July 28 in Fujian, sweeping across the entire province and bringing unprecedented torrential rainfall. The daily rainfall in many parts of the province broke the historical record logged in 1961, causing damage to more than 20,000 homes and 650,000 trees. It impacted more than 2.66 million people and 10,000 hectares of crops, with direct economic losses amounting to RMB 3.5 billion, or about $430 million. A 40-story building is shaking. I can't stand steadily in the living room. It's my first time seeing such a big typhoon. It may take an hour. A lot of people are rushing downstairs. I'm scared of the water. Shut it tight. It's a big terrace and the water has gotten so high. Well, what can I do? It doesn't rain. It has nowhere to go. This damn typhoon. I didn't notice there was a person here. His leg is broken. Call an ambulance. In Fuzhou, the capital city of Fujian, has been plunged into a sea of water, with rivers of water accumulating in the streets and many vehicles submerged. The subway and buses have been suspended. 23 underground crossings have been closed. Some underground tunnels have water up to 2 meters. This part of Fujian is experiencing flash floods and mudslides. The rainstorm has continued up to now with no signs of stopping, and it's still coming down. The city of Puxian is probably mostly flooded. Take a look. Torrential downpours hit a region in southwest Sichuan province on the morning of July 27th. Cars and trucks on the streets were swept away, drifting like toys. Gulang County was the worst hit, with power outages in large parts of the county and homes inundated. We encountered mudslides and landslides when we were on the way to the disaster zone, and we had to clear the area with the other rescuers to create a safe path. On August 3rd, an indignant netizen who participated in the rescue efforts revealed that Suozhu Vocational Education Center had accumulated a mountain of donated supplies, including food, daily necessities, and shelter materials. However, government personnel informed rescue workers that there were no supplies for the disaster victims and even prohibited local public servants from leaking this truth to the public. The netizen expressed frustration, stating, "I have removed the posts about accepting donations from the public. Even if you donate, it won't reach the hands of the common people. Let's stop sending things to the Vocational Education Center." The recent floods in Beijing and Hebei once again exposed the inaction and chaos of officials under the corrupt system of the Chinese Communist Party in front of the public. Commentator Wen Zhao stated in his program Wen Zhao Talks about the past and present that the flooding in Zhuozhu was caused by the deliberate release of water from Beijing. Due to the short evacuation time, residents were unable to move in time. As a result, many trapped individuals posted videos online seeking help with no sign of government or emergency personnel in the footage. He said that to protect Beijing, the CCP unleashed an unannounced flood on Zhuozhu. At the very least, the warning was extremely untimely, and the government's evacuation efforts were delayed and inefficient. There was also a severe lack of manpower and resources for relocating disaster victims, leading to the entrapment of a large number of residents. The inefficiency of the CT bureaucratic system is essentially sacrificing lives. Wen Zhao commented, "In an environment deeply entrenched with corruption and misconduct, when a crisis suddenly occurs, bureaucrats are burdened with concerns. They either hide information or provide false reports, leading to missed opportunities for disaster relief. They wait until the last minute before issuing evacuation notices when there's no other choice." He believes that local emergency departments could be facing the same situation. Evacuating disaster victims involves numerous complex tasks, including the mobilization of a large amount of resources. It could be a lack of funds or funds being embezzled due to corruption. Therefore, officials hope to pass through unnoticed and avoid taking any action if possible. Wen Zhao emphasized that when corruption and cover-ups become habitual, causing the government to lose its basic functions, it turns into a zombie government. Such a government, aside from exploiting its citizens, does nothing else. According to Apollo Network reporter Qin Rui, the typhoon Doksuri, dubbed the largest rainfall in half a century, has brought the largest rainstorm and flooding to Beijing since the Communist Party seized power. The Communist Party, propagating slogans like "Man can conquer nature" and "Fight against the heavens and battle the earth," has once again demonstrated its foolish disregard for the natural world, resulting in a painful cost borne by the people. Typhoon Doksuri has brought continuous heavy rainfall to the northern region of China in recent days. Many areas in Beijing have been severely flooded, with raging floods and collapsed bridges, and the western Mentogu district has been hit hardest. In 2012, Beijing experienced a water disaster caused by persistent, heavy rainfall, with rainfall reaching 190.3 millimeters in a single day. This was referred to as the largest rainstorm and flooding since the Communist Party took power. At that time, over 1.6 million people were affected. However, the Beijing municipal authorities stated that the recent heavy rainfall has caused more extensive damage than the 7-1 flood disaster in 2012. Just a few days ago, the Communist Party, self-proclaimed as the all-powerful, committed a foolish act, targeting the heavens in its struggle. On July 28th, during the opening ceremony of the University Games, people were amazed at the cloudless sky over Chengdu that day, despite days of continuous rain prior. The Communist Party's media took advantage of the situation to propagate and glorify itself. However, some internet users revealed that this was a result of artificial intervention, and they disclosed the list of items purchased by the Chengdu Meteorological Bureau for rainmaking rockets and projectiles, totaling 4.863 million yuan. Internet users claimed that a certain company deployed 5 operational aircraft, to set up 3 defense lines targeting the Chengdu Dong'an Lake Sports Center, where the opening ceremony took place, and the Chengdu Fangguangshan Open-Air Music Park within a 20-kilometer radius of the protection zone. These aircraft were sent out in advance to conduct artificial weather manipulation operations. However, the Communist Party, in its disregard for nature, failed to anticipate that just one day later, a heavy downpour would pour down upon Beijing. According to reports, heavy rain began in Beijing on the night of July 29th, with a particularly severe downpour in the southwest. The Beijing Water Authority announced that from 8 a.m. on the 29th to 4 p.m. on the 31st, the surface water flow in Beijing reached 390 million cubic meters, and groundwater reached 631 million cubic meters. What makes the local disaster worse is not only the disastrous consequences of the CCP's ignorant and arrogant war against heaven and earth, but also its vulnerable urban drainage system. Beijing resident Tsai Yanmin's residence is only about a 10-minute drive from the Mentogu district. On August 1st, he told Voice of America the entire Mentogu area's water, electricity, and gas have all been cut off, and there is no wireless signal. All public buses have ceased operation. Many villages in the area are built on slopes, and cars can only be parked on the sides of the road. Due to the strong water flow, any car parked in front of a house will be washed away. All roads have turned into not just rivers but torrents. Tsai Yanmin said, at the very least, there should be temporary flood control measures. Where there is more water, you should be able to drain it away. At the very least, you shouldn't let the water flood people's homes or inundate the roads. Mentogu has always been focused on image projects, ignoring flood control and prevention measures. Such a small amount of rain has washed everything away. The authorities don't prioritize prevention and rescue measures and only focus on burnishing their own image. During the 2012 Beijing flood, Hong Kong media commented, "A heavy rain exposed the numerous flaws in the city's drainage system. Over the years, countless roads have been built and towering skyscrapers erected in Beijing, but how many drainage pipes have been laid, and how many pumping stations have been built?" French literary giant Victor Hugo once said, "The sewer is the conscience of the city." Today, the most vulnerable and ineffectual part of China's cities is the sewer system. The city has no conscience because officials have no conscience. They prefer to focus on surface achievements, willing to gold-plate highways, build lavish government buildings akin to the White House, but are unwilling to invest in the sewer system, because even with top-notch sewers, you can't see them. On August 1st, a netizen uploaded a video saying, "A village in Beijing is just gone." The video shows what appears to be a large area of the village covered by a river formed by the floodwaters. In the video, one can see distant mountains across the river, and there is a pavilion, presumably the entrance to the village, standing in the water. On a partially destroyed road, the man filming the video exclaims, "This is too serious. We can't pass anywhere. The entire village is gone." Furthermore, due to the flash floods that have erupted across Beijing, many roads have been destroyed. Train services from Beijing Station have been partially suspended, with several trains halted midway. Some trains are stranded, while others have had to return to their point of departure. One such example is train number V4 stranded between Hebei and Beijing. Passengers were trapped on board for over 20 hours without access to water or food. Passengers, understandably agitated, sought out the conductor to voice their complaints. "We've been stuck on this train for over 20 hours without even water. Can't you hear us? Railway Dispatch Center." This truly constitutes an extensive and poignant series of episodes, repeatedly broadcasted in China. The populace, who bear the most profound losses, are left to endure the dire consequences when abandoned by the authorities. Given the Chinese Communist Party's consistent practice of concealing the true extent of disasters, many people suspect that the actual death toll may far exceed the official count. Besides, there are a lot of suspicions and suppositions of construction facilities among citizens. Why have the recently built airports, bridges, and apartments been destroyed in a blink of an eye? Lugo Bridge is a good example in this case. On August 1, the modern Marco Polo Bridge, Lugo Bridge, over the Escalating River in the Fangtai district of Beijing collapsed under the heavy rain, with 6 to 7 cars falling off the bridge. In stark contrast, the ancient Marco Polo Bridge, Lugo Bridge, built in 1189 and standing for over 830 years, remained unscathed. This has prompted online commentary, with netizens remarking, "Ever since the Communist Party came into power, everywhere is plagued with shoddy construction causing man-made disasters. Beijing Daxing International Airport's tarmac was flooded, with water reaching the tires of airplanes, leading to flight cancellations and delays. Due to signal disruptions, dozens of planes were forced to land at alternative airports. Public records indicate that the construction of Beijing Daxing International Airport started in December 2014, and it was officially completed in September 2019, taking just 4 years and 9 months. At the time, it was hailed as a miracle in the history of world engineering construction. On September 25, 2019, Xi Jinping personally attended the commissioning ceremony, announcing the official operation of the airport. What baffles many is why the drainage system of the Daxing Airport, which has only been in operation for less than 4 years, is so poorly designed. In response to the heavy rainfall, multiple reservoirs in Beijing discharged floodwater on July 30th and 31st. Due to its geographical position, the districts of Fangshan and Mentogu in Beijing, crucial to the city's flood control, suffered severe damage from the flood. As reported by the Beijing Daily on July 31, the floodgate of the Yongding River, Marco Polo Bridge flood distribution hub in Mentogu, was opened at midnight on July 31, initially discharging at a rate of 50 cubic meters per second, later increased to 380 cubic meters per second. In the afternoon of August 1, the Huero Reservoir in Beijing also began discharging water at high flow. Due to the excessive discharge of floodwater, river water levels surged and many places along the line faced danger. Numerous videos have surfaced showing that after the floodwaters receded, many roads, bridges, and houses in the urban area of Mentogu were destroyed, with numerous vehicles and belongings scattered everywhere, a scene of utter devastation. Fangshan District in Beijing also suffered severe damage due to flood discharge. An official report from Fangshan District on August 1 stated that some power poles and transformers had been destroyed by mountain torrents, damaging the area's power supply and communication lines. As of August 1, about 60,000 households were without power, and 28 villages with 3,410 households were experiencing power outages. In 7 towns, 62 villages had poor internet connectivity. Residents living close to the flood discharge areas were greatly affected. Some villagers were evacuated overnight. Many who could not be relocated in time were cut off from their relatives elsewhere due to local power and network outages. On August 1, Shidu town in Fangshan had lost contact with the outside world for several hours, and many friends and relatives of the townsfolk posted pleas for help online. While people's attention is focused on the floods in Beijing, some rural areas in Hebei and Tianjin, located downstream, were sacrificed as discharge zones in order to protect major cities such as Beijing, Xiongan, and Tianjin. These areas have been experiencing continuous rainfall. So the local residents not only have to endure the natural disasters caused by heavy rainfall, but also the additional calamity brought about by massive reservoir discharge from the upstream areas. There are even reports of reservoir discharging floodwater at night without prior notification to the local residents, resulting in people getting trapped due to the flooding. Those unfortunate villages chosen as reservoir discharge areas have been completely submerged, and the villagers have been forced to evacuate. According to People's Daily on July 30, the Hebei Provincial Water Resources Department reported that 20 large and medium-sized reservoirs in Hebei province are currently pre-discharging, with 4 medium-sized reservoirs having started to release water over their flood limits. On July 31, Hebei Radio and Television reported that in response to the torrential rain, various reservoirs within Hebei territory have sequentially increased the discharge of floodwaters. Many netizens expressed that reservoir water discharge to avoid the dam bursting is undoubtedly necessary. But the issue lies in whether there was timely notification to the local residents before the discharge occurred. Reports indicate that 20 large and medium-sized reservoirs in Hebei province have increased their flood discharge, causing severe losses to the local residents, especially since the discharge was done at night. According to official information from Hebei province, as of 12:00 on August 1, The heavy rainfall had affected over 540,000 people in 87 counties districts in Hebei province. Additionally, there were cases of casualties and missing people in the area. Zhuozhou City in Hebei province, the closest to Beijing, has become one of the most severely affected areas. Zhuozhou, a county-level city under the jurisdiction of Beijing, Hebei is a riverine city with 6 rivers converging within its boundaries. An official from the Zhuozhou Emergency Management Bureau admitted to the media that flood discharge from upstream Beijing had led to a rise in water levels in Zhuozhou. An official announcement on August 1 stated that due to the extreme heavy rainfall and the passage of upstream floods, the water levels of several rivers in Zhuozhou surged dramatically. This has significantly increased the risk of flooding in the river channels and the city, making the flood control situation extremely grim. According to mainland Chinese media, the paper, on August 2nd, in the flooded area of Zhuozhou, Hebei roads were submerged, with water levels reaching up to 6 meters, almost as high as traffic lights. Rescue teams from various places used boats to continuously shuttle back and forth, evacuating the affected people. Numerous videos circulating on the internet show that almost the entirety of Zhuozhou is submerged, with some residential areas flooded up to the 3rd floor. Numerous villages and farmlands are inundated, with trees showing only their treetops and some houses only their roofs above the floodwaters. It looks like a vast marshland. In the videos, cries for help can be heard intermittently. People with nowhere to go and who are unable to get assistance are posting videos and messages online asking for help. In the video, this elderly person's home is flooded, leaving him with nowhere to go but to take refuge on the rooftop. The heavy rain continues to pour, and the elderly person shivers from the cold, making it a heart-wrenching sight. In the afternoon of August 1st, a Zhuozhou resident, Ms. Huang, said during an interview, the whole city of Zhuozhou is flooded, other than the residential compounds of the China petroleum system. All other residential areas are submerged. In some places, even the hotels have collapsed. It's more troublesome in the Zhuozhou countryside, coupled with communication breakdown, blackout, and water outage. The severity of the situation is unknown to the outside world. As for why Zhuozhou city's disaster situation is so severe, Mr. Huang said, it's never flooded like this from rain alone. It's due to the discharge of floodwaters. He said that Zhuozhou City is closest to Beijing, and to protect Beijing, Zhuozhou City was flooded. The Chinese authorities can no longer care about Zhuozhou, as Beijing itself is hard-pressed. Additionally, due to an excessive release of floodwaters from upstream reservoirs, the Biesha River in Ningjiang County of Exingtai City in Hebei Province has experienced severe flooding beyond standard levels, resulting in 4 overflow points. On July 31, in the village of Yongsahuishuang East in Handan, Hebei, the riverbanks were abruptly breached by the rapidly rising river waters. Videos show that after the banks burst, the raging floodwaters surged towards the farmlands and villages beyond. Local villagers used excavators to transport empty tankers to the breach and cast them into the river to block the gap. The downstream areas faced serious flooding, with villagers evacuating through waist-deep floodwaters, according to a WeChat public account post by Dingzhou City on August 1. Due to the excessively large discharge, far exceeding the river's flood capacity, the threat and challenge to the lives, production, and daily living of the population along the river are unprecedented, making the flood prevention situation extremely critical. The Huangbishuang Reservoir, located on the main stream of the Huturo River in Shijiazhuang, is the largest reservoir in Hebei Province. CCTV reported on July 31 that due to heavy rainfall, the inflow to the reservoir rapidly increased on the night of the 30th, resulting in flooding. The reservoir subsequently also increased its discharge flow. 6 of the 8 gates of Huangbishuang Reservoir have been opened for continuous flood discharge. Public records show that the Huangbishuang Reservoir, primarily designed for flood control, also provides urban power and other functions. Officials claim that after fortification in 1998, the reservoir's flood protection standard was designed for a flood that occurs once every 500 years and checked for a flood that occurs once every 10,000 years. Some netizens have commented that these expensive reservoirs were officially claimed to withstand floods occurring once in 500 or even 1,000 years, only to encounter such events in just a few years. However, what angers people the most is the authorities' unannounced release of floodwaters during severe flood situations. In some areas, evacuation notices were issued. In others, they were not. And in some cases, evacuation notices were issued at midnight, leaving no time for the public to prepare, leaving them stranded in torrential rain. Tianjin, located furthest downstream, bore the brunt of the flooding, and several hundred villages were vacated overnight to serve as flood storage areas. On July 31, Shawakiti village in Ruqing district, Tianjin, was chosen as a flood storage area, and all villagers were ordered by the authorities to evacuate on their own, a loudspeaker in the village announced. Before going to friends and relatives, make sure to turn off all water, electricity, and gas in your homes. Villagers, this is real. In Dahuangbao, Wuqing, Tianjin, one could hear the loudspeaker announcing at night, "Urgent notice. Those who have not evacuated on their own seize the time to evacuate." In fact, as early as July 30, there were reports suggesting that the Chinese Communist Party had internally communicated that the pressure of flood discharge in Beijing was immense. Currently, the reservoirs in both Beijing and Hebei are full and need to discharge downstream. Locations such as Mentugu in Beijing, Jingyang Lake in Hebei, and Dahuangbao in Wuqing, Tianjin, have become flood discharge areas. A netizen posted a screenshot on Twitter, seemingly from a WeChat group in Wangyushi village of Kangzhou City in Hebei. Someone in the group messaged, "Heard from higher-up leaders not to scare everyone, but the water situation this year is extremely severe. When the water rises, the priority is to protect Tianjin and Xiong'an. If the river can't hold the water, we will have to create a breach in the north of our village. Excavators from the Water Resources Bureau will arrive soon. Be ready to create the breach at any time." This isn't a hoax. The massive downstream floodwater has caused river levels to surge dramatically, with dam breaches and overflows happening frequently along the way. In times of such crisis, farmers are always the ones sacrificed. To protect the larger cities, many villages are chosen as temporary flood storage areas, meaning the entire village will be submerged. Villagers have no choice but to leave their homes, according to mainland Chinese media reports. In order to discharge floodwaters to protect Beijing, the Chinese authorities have decided that starting from 2 a.m. on August 1st, the Dongbian village, located in the low-lying area downstream of Tianjin, will be used as a flood retention zone. Approximately 1 million people in the surrounding areas will be urgently evacuated. It is reported that the Dongbian flood retention zone is situated on both sides of the Daking River, at the border between Hebei and Tianjin, covering a total area of 379 square kilometers, with 100 square kilometers within Tianjin's territory. As per the Flood Retention Zone Activation Plan, the northern part of the Dongbian Flood Retention Zone, which is located north of the Daking River, was activated at 2 a.m. on August 1st. After the floodwater enters the Hebei province portion of the Dongbian Flood Retention Zone, it will be distributed and slowed down. It is expected to reach Tianjin's territory around August 9th. Authorities are currently initiating the evacuation of residents in Jinghai and Ziqing district to ensure that the public is evacuated before the floodwater reaches Tianjin. Some netizens have commented that this is another man-made disaster under the guise of a natural one, which has already massively erupted around Beijing. A rising mystery of the way Typhoon Doksuri. By July 29th, Typhoon Doksuri grazed Taiwan before making its way towards the coastal Chinese province of Fujian. In theory, the island of Taiwan acts as a strong barrier for extreme weather, blocking Pacific typhoons from reaching the southeastern Chinese coast. By the time the storm reaches Fujian, they are usually weakened after moving over Taiwan. In recent years, however, seasonal typhoons have acted strangely, bypassing Taiwan or hitting it weakly. But when they reach mainland China, they strike with full destructive force. This year's Typhoon Doksuri followed this pattern by passing Taiwan and making landfall in Fujian with winds reaching 191 kilometers per hour, 118 miles per hour. It became the second strongest typhoon in the province's history and one of the strongest typhoons to hit southeast China in the last century. As the saying goes, a Category 4 typhoon sends paper flying. A Category 9 typhoon sends roof tiles flying, and a Category 11 or 12 typhoon is rarely seen over land. Fujian's Typhoon Doksuri reached Category 17 with a wind speed of 50 meters 164 feet per second. If you tried to drop a garbage bag in the middle of it, and it would be 1,000 feet away in a moment. So it's not simply a matter of wind and rain, but the full brunt of the ocean storm. So, what is the reason why these seasonal typhoons are acting strangely? It is hard to answer. However, we all know what China and its leader are doing with Chinese people and the world. Whether Imzai's decision on flood release and evacuation work goes the wrong way, Chinese citizens are mostly affected in their life.